there was one part that I left out. There's one thing that didn't happen. Of all those things that I asked for and I said, I want it to be paid off in 5 years. Why should I doubt that that won't happen? Because my Father is the King and He owns everything. Hey Michelle, how are you?
I'm good, how are you guys?
Good, good. I'm used to seeing you hosting these videos. That's not even true, but... Well, I'm so glad you joined us for this short little video that Elesha and I wanted to do for the longest time. We just kind of wanted to tell our story of how we moved to Georgia. And throughout this whole journey coming down here, there were these amazing miracles that we saw, an obvious touch or hand of God throughout the process. And we thought it was just really cool, but also that maybe other people could benefit from hearing it and possibly putting it into practice themselves.
Yeah.
And so we just wanted somebody to talk to as we told the story. So I'm glad you were available and willing to come and sit with us.
Well, I'm super excited.
Yeah.
I'm super excited because I totally love God's stories. Yeah.
And I know you've heard a little bit of here and there, but not the whole thing. So I think I think you'll really enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know, this is Elesha, my wife. This is her first time on video here. Well, at least on this podcast.
Yeah.
So I guess we would start, in the very beginning for us was just to give a little backstory, in case you didn't even know our beginnings, was we actually met in college back in 1995.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He's one of, other than family, I've known him the longest out of anybody.
That's
Really
interesting.
cool.
That is super cool.
Yeah, so 18 years old, we went to Elam Bible Institute up in upstate New York.
Mm-hmm.
It's now called something else.
Bible college.
Elam
Bible
College.
Yeah.
And so, a couple of years there, and we were good friends. Nothing really happened, but we were... Oh, that's not this story. That's a different story.
We just became really close friends. Yeah. There was a 6-week internship in New York City that we went to our second year there, and we were on the same team. So we just kind of really clicked and connected and became really good friends. When we came back from that, he asked if we wanted to be more than friends. And I was, did the cliche, if we're not married by the time we're 40, we can get married.
Well, she said no first, and then she said, you know what, if we're not married by the time we're 40.
Yeah, then we can get married. An 18, 19-year-old, you're thinking, we're such good friends now, we'll always be friends.
Yeah.
But this is, back in 1995, and it's letter writing. There's no social media, there's no internet. I don't know if anybody remembers way back then. So when I left, I was only there a year and a half. He finished the program, which was a 3-year program, but I was only there a year and a half. And after I left, we kind of just lost touch. Because like I said, who's going to write letters to just a friend? At that time, you only write if you're serious. So then, Facebook comes around and we become friends on Facebook, but we never really communicated because at that time he was married and I was married, and we just kind of were respecting those boundaries. So we didn't really communicate. We just liked pictures every now and then. And then in 2015, I saw that he was driving from New Jersey down to Florida, and I was living in Maryland at the time. And I was like, hey, let's meet up for lunch, because I knew he had to take 95, which I know worked right off the exit right there. It's like, let's meet up for lunch and catch up. So he did that, and we before that we started messaging a little bit, and I found out that he was divorced, and he found out I was divorced, and so we met up for lunch.
That's so wild.
Yeah, and we talked for a while, and then we just kept texting, and then we would meet halfway in White Marsh, Maryland, which was an hour and a half from him and an hour and a half from me, and we'd meet up there. So we did that for about 6 weeks or so, and then it became official. We started dating. But first, again, I told him I just wanted to be friends. So we're still just friends.
After having met up several times and had these dates, really, is what they were, unofficially. And I said, do you want to like move this to the next level? Like, do you want to be whatever, official? And she's like, no, just want to be friends.
So what was your perseverance? What drove you to persist?
Oh, I didn't have to. I just said, okay. It wasn't too many minutes later, she said, you remember when I just said I wanted to be friends? I don't really.
Aw.
Anyway, so so it was the same day.
Yeah.
Same day, so okay. It wasn't too much persistence. You didn't have to run too much.
So we started dating. We dated for about 4 years. I had to wait till my son graduated high school before I would move away. So we were married in
2019.
2019, yeah. So
Wow.
I've known him forever, but we've only been married for almost 6 years.
Almost 6 years, yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yep. So that's our.
So what was the gap
story.
again? What was the gap again between the Noah's teenagers and then the final reconnection?
Oh yeah. So
What was that
we were
time gap?
40 something when we got married.
We were 42 when we got married.
Oh, wow.
So it was.
So your word, watch what you say. Your words have power, right?
Yeah.
She said after 40.
Yep. Yeah, but it was. So that was 1995 when we met, and then we started dating in 2015. So
20 years.
20 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at the Lord.
Yeah.
His plans persevere, right?
It's a total redemption story. It's just a redemption for both of us.
That's
Coming
beautiful.
from the marriages that we did, it's like, it was, totally God. So
there's hope.
yeah.
Absolutely. So the point of this one, though, is really what happened after that. So it was only after we got married, she moved to New Jersey, we bought a house, and it was a nice, quaint little house, and we were only there for about a year and a half. And so, Jamie, my sister, she, her backstory is another story. Maybe we'll talk about that in another video, but through a series of events, she finds this bridal glory school and a ministry school, and she was doing it online because we were based in, obviously, we were in New Jersey. She was in like Philadelphia, not far from each other, about an hour or so. And so she did the first year online, and then she felt like she wanted to move down here for the school for her second year. Well, just a permanent, like we had no intentions of it being temporary. She was just like, I'm going to move to Georgia. And my mom was going to go with me. My dad had passed away a few years earlier, so they're my only immediate family. So I was like, well, if they're moving to Georgia, of course I had my kids though, still in New Jersey. So it was something that we were praying about, like, should we move? And so I guess the immediate conclusion was, well, I'm not going to leave my kids, first of all, in New Jersey and move to Georgia. They're too important to me. So we were going to wait till they graduated, which would have been this year, actually.
Yeah.
So,
graduated this year.
So this was in 2021 that we were thinking and praying about moving. And we were just going to say, all right, well, we'll wait till 2025 after Joelle graduates. And just a little backstory about us in New Jersey is that we really had, other than the kids, we really had nothing, and family who was moving, we really had nothing to hold us there. There was honestly no church. We've tried many churches. They were not great. No like real good spiritual families, nothing like that. No close friends that were, those kind of friends, church friends. And so we would watch stuff, on YouTube all the time, especially through 2020 and 21, of all these ministries that we just envied and was like, wow, why can't we have something like that around here?
Yeah.
Are you stirring a hunger in you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
So, that was definitely stirring a hunger. She said many times to me, I don't know if you said anything about moving, but you said, why can't there be something like that around here?
Yeah, I was always like, oh, why can't that be, like, why can't we go to that?
Yeah.
But we just could never find that.
Yeah.
So while we did feel led to go, we definitely thought we need to wait. Wait for the kids to graduate at least.
Yeah.
So we had really just settled on, we're gonna wait here for 4 more years till the girls graduate, muddle through it, and then move. So at that point, Jamie had invited us over for, I think it was a Sunday, I can't really remember, but for lunch, because she had just gotten back from a trip down here.
Down here, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking at houses and stuff.
Looking at houses. There was a glory night that they went to. So she found a house that she really felt was supposed to be hers. Like Damon said earlier, there's a huge story behind that as well, and we'll let her tell that part of it.
Yeah.
But during that lunch, she brought out a flyer, and she says, I really need you to pray with me. I really feel this is supposed to be my house. It's currently under contract with somebody else, so
Wow.
pray that, God's will be done, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So she pulls out this like flyer that they give to like for selling the house. It's like this nice picture of the house, and there's an aerial view of it. So it's like a map view,
Yeah.
looking down from above, and so you can kind of see the whole area. And they're right below her house, or this house wasn't hers yet. Spoiler. But right below her house was another little house just in the middle of a big patch of woods. It was just all woods, and there's like a little circle with a house in it, like this long driveway coming down. And so I was like, wow, I want that house. I'll take that one.
Yeah, just I'll take that one.
So it's on the aerial view. You're looking from an aerial view.
Yeah.
That is so awesome.
Yep, just looking down from her house, I see this one. I was like, I'll take that one. It looked really nice. It was a joke, but I was like, I really do want that. But I knew also that it looked way out of our budget and all that kind of stuff. So it was really just like a fleeting, passing thing. So as the days and weeks went on, I really just started spending a lot of time in prayer and worship. Usually at night, just by myself, later at night, sometimes to 12, 1 o'clock. And I would just start out in worship. I put stuff on TV and just like whatever.
Yeah.
And just like boldly asking, first of all, for wisdom for this whole thing. What do we need to do? The timing, this is what I was asking for, that the timing of everything would be perfect. And I just started boldly asking and seeking that if God wanted us down here sooner, then he'd have to work it out.
Yeah.
And so after a few weeks had gone by, I mean, not that long really, maybe 1 or 2.
Yeah, it really wasn't that long.
So really quickly, at this point, when you're praying, when you guys are praying, are you targeting this house in prayer at all yet? Or you're just targeting like the Lord's will and wisdom and timing and like,
timing
yeah, okay.
for the move.
Okay.
I knew in my mind what I wanted.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Okay.
But it was also like one of those dreams that,
You're like, how would that
Was-
happen?
yeah.
Yeah.
So a week or 2 later, we find out that my girls and their mother decided they're going to move to Georgia. Now, I know why. I mean, it's not like totally mysterious or out of the blue. She had some family that had moved down here years ago, a few years prior, I should say. But it was not on the radar for them to move.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so anyway, it was just suddenly decided that they were going to move to Georgia. So, all right, so we could scratch that one off. I guess we're going now.
Yeah. So that really like released us to really start moving forward, moving down here.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That was the only thing holding us back, and
Yeah.
no longer was holding us back.
Yeah. So it's like, now what's your excuse?
Yeah.
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 That's what he was
Yep.
saying. Yeah.
Yep.
Totally.
So we started to look for houses, and well, the first part is the pre-approval process, but it was a little difficult for me because I was self-employed and I had been for years with my own photography business, shooting weddings and things like that. I also was the only one who was on our current house in New Jersey on the mortgage. And so the thing is, we weren't planning to sell that house. And so I couldn't buy another house. We'll get into that in a second. If I'm coming to another state and I'm self-employed, I need to prove about a year's worth of contracts and work before they're gonna, loan me money.
Yeah.
So basically, even though I was making money and I was still booking in the future in New Jersey, they just wanted to see what I had in Georgia, which I didn't have any. And so basically, I was not able to help at all as far as being approved for a mortgage. And so it was all on Elesha.
Oh, wow.
So thankfully, and I know most people aren't thankful for COVID, but I was, because my job at the time, because it wasn't a work from home position, but when COVID hit, we all worked from home.
Yeah.
So it showed, we did that for about 6 months. It showed that we could run the business with somebody working from home. So I was able to tell them, I'm moving to Georgia. I would love to keep my job, but I'm moving whether I have this job or not. And they were like, no, you can work from home. We can do it. So
wow, look at the grace of God.
Yeah, I was able to keep my job and move down here. And so we were able to use my income from that job to get approved for a mortgage, but only I was approved. So,
But you had some previous issues.
yeah, so from my previous marriage, I had to file bankruptcy.
Oh, wow.
So we knew it would be a little bit difficult, but I was still approved, but I had to get an FHA loan. I couldn't get a conventional loan. It had to be an FHA loan,
Okay.
which is more difficult. Like the inspection process is more stringent, that kind of stuff. So sellers, if they have to choose between somebody with an FHA loan or somebody with a conventional loan, they'll usually always go with a conventional loan because the process is so much easier.
Yeah.
It won't get kicked back because of a lot of inspection issues that a lot of times an FHA loan will.
Yeah.
So we kind of had that hurdle to jump over. And then I was approved for, I think it was $285. So that, that's still, I was shocked I was approved for that much.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, 2021 was very crazy when the housing market, and so we had this limited budget and we were just getting outbid like left and right.
So had you guys at this point, were y'all actually applying for houses or actually finding houses, or it would be like you'd find something that kind of looked good and then it was gone?
Yeah, that. So we were working with the same realtor that Jamie worked with.
Okay.
So we were starting to look at houses a lot of times, through FaceTime. She would walk through on video because we, can't come down here every time there's a house to look at. And because the market was so hot, you had to look at it that day because it would go off the market so quick. So a lot of times the ones that we liked would go off the market really quick. Or we would put in an offer and then just be outbid by crazy, 50, 60,000 over asking price for cash. So it just made it very difficult to try to find something to move down.
Yeah, and so people were, telling us things regarding our house in New Jersey, that we should sell it instead of keep it.
Yeah.
And the reason I wanted to keep it was because I still had work to do up here in New Jersey, that I wanted to stay there. I rented it to a friend for 6 months and I just stayed there when I came up. But I didn't have to do that. I had other places I could have stayed, but for some reason I felt like I should not sell the house, that I should wait. But everyone is putting negative thoughts and fear into my mind, which I didn't take or receive.
Praise
but
God.
yeah, but that you don't know what's going to be, what it's going to be like in 6 months. The market could crash. You won't get as much money for your house, stuff like this. But I knew that I felt like I was supposed to hold on to it. And so what I did was I just declared what I wanted to happen, you know, and I said things like, this would not be a bad decision. It would be for the better. The whole process when I do sell the house would be easy, that I would get way more than I asked for. And I was very specific, and I said, the realtor is going to say that she had never seen anything like this before.
Now you're doing all this through prayer in your time of prayer, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he came up and he told me, and I'm like, oh yeah, that would be funny. Like, not funny, but okay, yeah.
Okay, honey.
You know, being supportive, but yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So we just kept continuing searching. We did come down once together. We
Yeah.
put in offers and they weren't accepted.
Yeah.
It was just very difficult. We finally did find one not too far from here, maybe like 20 minutes away. It was a ranch. No, it wasn't a ranch house. But anyway, it was like this
It was like a split level. Like it had a few steps going up, and then with some bedrooms, and then you come down and it's kitchen, living room, and then down more, and there's more bedrooms down here. So it was kind of like a really old-fashioned rancher almost with steps.
Yeah, and they actually did. We put an offer in because it was somewhat within range. It was a little bit over.
It was a little bit over.
But we were just looking for anything because you know, maybe we were looking, in hindsight, looking back, maybe we were just too impatient or whatever. But we were trying to hurry God up.
Yeah.
But we were putting offers on houses, so that's what we were doing, and so. Even though it wasn't really what we liked or wanted, because it was small, it was dark, it was just old and outdated inside.
Yeah.
So it was just like, you know, wood paneling, just very dark inside.
Yeah. It was not.
From the 50s.
Yeah.
And anyway, so they accepted our offer. And so we rushed, while we were here in town, we rushed an inspection. And
because
so,
I don't know, like in Georgia, there you have a 7 days from when your offer is accepted to put down escrow money to hold the contract.
Okay.
And to basically lock yourself into that. And it's usually 1% of the asking price.
Okay.
Is what that is. So we were here for almost a week, and they accepted our offer pretty soon, like a day or two after we were here. So we wanted to do the inspection while we were here, and within that escrow, or that window, that week, before we had to put down that deposit. Because if there was something wrong with that, with the inspection, we wanted to be able to back out pretty easy.
Yeah.
So we went and stayed at the property, and it's not normal, they told us afterwards, to be at the property the whole time during the inspection.
Okay.
But we really wanted to like try and like figure out how we were going to make it work. Because we wanted 2 bedrooms for his girls because they were still young. They were teenagers, but still young. We wanted them to have their own space. And then Damon needed a room for his office, and then I needed a room for my office. And there just wasn't that. So we were even, like the living room was like a really long, like open plan kind of thing. And I'm like, you know, we can move the TV up, and I can just put my desk behind the TV. We can make that work. So we were just trying to really
make it work.
Just make it work. And we knew it wasn't going to be our forever home. We were just settling for this home, just to get down here. So that night, you know, the inspector, he talked to us and he's like, you know, if I had the money, I'd buy this house. It's got really good bones. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a great investment. I was like, oh, okay, thanks. That makes me feel a little better. So that night we went back to the hotel and went to bed, and I had a nightmare. And I have dreams, but I don't have like nightmares that will wake him up. And that night I did. And I knew that the owners of the property had 3 dogs. And in my dream, I dreamt that these 3 dogs were, they were like jumping on me. And I was laying down and they were like jumping on me and hurting me. Like not like tearing me apart, but like hurting me. And it was hurting, and that's why I was crying out. So we woke up and we kind of talked about it. And I'm like, Damon, I don't think this is we need to back out of this. I was like, this is not our home. There's something else out there. So we did. We lost the inspection money, which is fine. We knew there was that chance anyways, but so we backed out of that, and we're like, we're just going to start over. This isn't the house God wants for us.
So for you guys, when you lost that inspection money, had the inspection been completed yet?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the inspection was completed.
Yeah. Yep.
It's interesting the timing of his dream that he gave you too.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know, but we had spent so much time in the home. Mm-hmm. I think maybe that had something to do with it a little bit.
Well, no, it was just God telling
I think
us
it
not
was
to.
a warning not to.
That's what I'm getting.
Go
Is it was
through.
like it was a warning dream
Yeah.
that he gave you. He allowed you to have a warning
I totally
dream.
believe that's 100% was a dream from God, to back out of the contract. And what was amazing about that whole thing as well is I kind of felt bad for the seller, because the reason they accepted our offer so quickly is because somebody had backed out. Mm-hmm. So they were, I think it was like an estate almost. So they were really trying to sell it quickly. So that's why they jumped on like the very next offer, which was ours. But there is this sweet old lady who was talking to our realtor and was saying, if they back out, let me know, because I want it.
Oh, wow.
So I think like that whole thing, like it was supposed to be that lady's house. Mm-hmm. And the sellers were still blessed, even though we backed out of it.
Yeah.
She was an older lady. She would have loved the house.
Yeah. It was perfect for her.
Yeah, it was. So we were back to square one. No house, no offers, whatever.
Nothing. No plan. Just
Just
try to get here when we can.
Just trusting in the timing of God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so a few weeks later, I came down one more time by myself, just to look at a couple more houses, but didn't really find anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was able to stay at Jamie's house, and he saw a few, but there wasn't anything.
So once again, we went back home, and I just really spent a lot of time praying and asking God for his perfect timing. Mm-hmm. And so I was really watching a lot of Elijah streams. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but they have a lot of guest speakers every day pretty much of the week. And two that I really, really liked during this period of time, two that I watched a lot that really spoke a lot of great things that I took hold of and I think helped through this process. And so I'll just give a quick overview of the two principles, or the two things that I really held on to and prayed through. And so one of the speakers was Robin Bullock, and he was teaching on this, ask what you desire, from Mark 11. Mm. So I'll just read a few of the verses from Mark 11, starting in 22, that said, "So Jesus answered and said to them, 'Have faith in God. For assuredly I say to you, whoever says to this mountain, be removed and be cast into the sea, and does not doubt in his heart, but believes that those things he says will be done, he will have whatever he says.'" And then the next part is Jesus does the very thing. And he says, "Therefore, I say to you." In other words, he's putting into practice what he just said you can do. Mm-hmm. Cast this, whatever you say, and believe in your heart, and don't doubt, you'll have it. So therefore, I say, he's not putting this very thing into practice. Jesus himself is putting this into practice. And he says, whatever you ask when you pray, believe that you receive them and you'll have them. Mm. So he's doing this part by saying that I can do this.
Yeah, amen.
You see how that works? And so I really it grew my faith. It really just grew my faith. And Gracie.
She felt like a force just came over here. I was like,
come on, lay down.
So this really just built up my faith a lot. Like, it was an amazing time. I was like so excited, and I might not always be very emotional kind of person, but during this time, when I was by myself, it's different when I'm by myself. But when I was like praying by myself, I would get excited and emotional, and just would ask what I desired.
Mm-hmm.
My prayers changed because I saw him as the Father that he had it to give.
Mm-hmm.
If I needed a house, he had it to give. It's like the child of a king, an actual child, goes to his father and asks for something. He doesn't wonder if he has it to give
Or can afford it.
or can afford it, or he just asks what he wants.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how I started acting and praying. I was asking what I wanted with the faith that whatever I ask,
He's gonna give.
I will receive, because I have faith in God. I did not doubt in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And Jesus said I could do that. So I was specific in my prayers. And, I had that picture on that flyer in my mind, but I asked for specific things.
Did you ask for that picture of the flyer at that point?
I asked for the details.
Okay.
So I said, I want, first of all, I don't need like the whole big thing or whatever, but I want the perfect house for what we need.
Yeah.
That was the thing. I want the perfect house. But I also just wanted to have a place that we would be able to live in forever. It was more like a last time we're going to move kind of thing. And I wanted to have this spacious house, not cramped, not like having to throw away half our stuff. Not that we had a lot of stuff, but I just wanted something with space. Wanted some land with it. Didn't have to be huge. I wanted this long driveway and surrounded by woods, because I grew up in that environment in the country, and I hadn't been there since as far as a living space. So I wanted to live there in the woods. And so I just wanted it peaceful, quiet, surrounded by woods with a long driveway. And that's what I prayed for, and I knew, and then I put it aside because I knew it was done.
Come on. That's great faith.
Yeah.
So the other person that I would listen to, and who had this one particular message, was a lady by the name Yvonne Attia, talking about a lot of things, but she has often had experiences in heaven. And so she described about this time when she was taken there, and an angel took her into a particular room called the treasure room in heaven, the treasure room. And I don't know at this time if I had ever heard anything like this before, but I've got faith. So I was like, okay, knowing her from listening to her, I could trust her, I felt. So she just told of this experience. There were two people actually within a short amount of time on Elijah streams talking about this, independent of each other. Their experience was a little different as far as what they saw, but essentially it was the same concept. One lady talked about tables with names on it that had things on it. This other, and Yvonne, she was talking about more like locker rooms in this room with their name on it. And when she opened the locker, there was treasure, there was gold, silver. These were all things, though, specific. These were things that had been lost and robbed from her, stolen from her from the enemy in her past and in her father's past and grandfather and great-grandfather. And these were being redeemed to her if she would take it and receive it.
Yeah.
And so, again, it was an act of faith where you receive and you take the blessing or the things that were once lost, and it was being restored to her.
So interesting.
And
It's really good teaching.
And so I said, I could do that.
Yeah.
And so I did. I prayed that way. And I basically pulled things from heaven, from the treasure room in heaven, into my world, into our world. Now, obviously, I'm not saying things physically appeared, but but what they manifested in other ways. And so that's the rest of the story.
Well, you know what I'm reminded of? I'm so sorry, but I'm like,
Yeah.
I gotta,
Yeah.
because I'm just feeling it. Like, I'm so reminded of how the word says that faith is a currency. It's a currency of heaven, right? So faith is a currency of heaven. So how are you going to access the treasures? You need the currency. So it's almost like that exchange, right? You have to have the faith to get the access, and then you get the access, and then you can. Wow. It's a substance. It's the substance of those things hoped for. Wow, wow, wow. That's beautiful.
And so again, just to reiterate the point, I spent weeks every night just praying and worshiping and asking as if God the Father had it to give, had what I needed, and that he would give it to me because I asked of him. And he loved me that much. And I had the faith to do it. And when I asked, it was done. And so since I was on this faith high, like I was like bold, I was like just asking for anything and doing things that I normally wouldn't do. So Elesha had this autoimmune disease.
Yeah. So even before we had gotten married, I was struggling with this autoimmune disease, which in short is UCTD, undifferentiated connective tissue disorder. So it's on the verge of lupus. It's lupus before it's lupus. I didn't have enough inflammation markers in my blood to be considered lupus, but it was like only 2 or 3 till you bumped into that category. So it was causing a lot of inflammation in my joints and in my hands. A lot of times I couldn't like hold things because my hands would just ache and my knuckles would swell up. So I was going to a rheumatologist. She had put me on, I think it was methotrexate, I think is what it was called, which is actually a chemo drug. And the side effects of that was like worse even than what I was being sick. I had belly aches all the time. I was just tired all the time, cranky probably. So I was struggling with that during this time. So he comes to me one night and he's like, you know what? I think you need to stop taking your medication. I think God's going to heal you. I was like, okay. So we sat down, we took communion and we prayed and we threw away my medication, and I haven't taken it since. I haven't gotten tested, but I haven't had any issues. So when we finally did move down here, so I'm jumping forward just a little bit. When we finally did move down here, I was trying to hang up curtains by myself. I didn't want to wait for him because, I'm a woman and I can do it. I don't need to wait for him. And it was high up and I was on a chair and I was using my hands a lot and trying to drill into, I think it's a wall that was on the side of our house. So it was like into brick almost. And my knuckles swelled up really bad and I couldn't use my hands. And then also just from packing and unpacking, and I had really, was in a lot of pain. And that night, I don't know if it was that night or the next night, I can't remember the timeline, but it was soon after we went to a Glory Nights. And Pastor Brian was like, does anybody have an autoimmune disease? We're going to, how he does his little, like, do you have this? We're going to pray for you. So I raised my hand and I got prayed for.
Well, there was a couple people. It wasn't
just me.
her. It was a corporate thing. It wasn't, specific or specified on her.
Yeah, but I had...
it was swollen?
Like you could tell, like it was swollen. It wasn't just something that you couldn't tell by looking at my hands. You could tell that there was something wrong. And so we were praying and I opened my eyes and the swelling's gone. It's not swollen anymore. It's not painful. I can move my hands. I could hold things. Like I couldn't even like hold like a glass of water because it was just so painful and I couldn't grip tight enough to keep it from falling. And ever since then, I have not had any issues. I mean, I do everything.
Wow.
And I have not had any pain in my hands. I have not had any other kind of joint inflammation or anything. So I am totally healed.
Praise God. And how long ago was that?
3 years.
3 years,
Oh,
yeah.
wow. Yes, Lord.
Yeah. So because of that faith high, it just started that whole, not only just getting here, but just like everything else, like being healed and all that stuff.
It's almost like dominoes. The first domino falls and then everything else
Yep.
just kind of lines up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
But going back, because we didn't actually move yet,
No,
we jumped ahead
we jumped ahead a little bit
for that
for
part.
that part of the story.
Yeah. So I was really just asking what I wanted, right? Anyway, Jamie calls out of the blue she had already been here for a few weeks.
Yeah.
They had moved. We were still in New Jersey, still had no clue what we're going to do.
We were still
No
living
house.
remotely at houses with a realtor.
And so she calls and says, hey, you know that house behind me that you liked in the picture? They just put a for sale sign up.
Oh my
And that's when I knew that that was our house.
Wow.
Now, obviously we didn't get it yet.
Yeah.
That's when I knew.
Yeah.
And again, I put it aside like it's already done. But, you got to go through the motions. And so called the realtor up and they did a virtual tour. And
So Jamie and his mom came over and walked through the house with the realtor, and we were on FaceTime, I believe it was, and we were looking at everything. And at that point, we didn't really care what it looked like because we knew this is where we were supposed to be.
yeah, I didn't really need to see it, but,
The realtor didn't quite understand.
it's what you do. So,
She was like, you have to look at it first.
so yeah, we looked at it via, FaceTime.
So the other, like, if we had gone through with that other house, we would have just, the timeline was we'd have just been closing around that time on that house. So there was no way that we would have been able to put in an offer
Yeah.
when,
It would have been too late. We'd have been too far down the process. We couldn't
Yeah.
back out of that other house had we stuck with it. And so the timing worked out pretty great.
It was just perfect.
Um, yeah. The only problem with this house, which I didn't see as a problem, was that it was over $100,000 above our approval amount. She was approved for $285 only. And so it didn't really worry me. I was, fine because my father is the king and he owns everything. And so $100,000 is, as far as the difference, is not that much for him.
yeah, we ended up having to, because, just how everything was, we had to put in, I think it was like $395. It was even over what the asking price was. We had to be competitive. And $395, I mean, I was just like, there's no way they're going to, like, the realtor didn't even say, this is way over what you're approved for. How can you put in an offer for this? Nobody said anything. So we were kind of like going for it. And at that time, for a lot of houses, especially ones that just went on the market, they would show the house for a week and kind of get all the offers. And then after a week, they would go through the offers and choose one. So it wasn't like, a couple of years ago, it was, yes, I'll take your offer. No, you knew within 24 hours if they were going to accept your offer or not. But this one, they were making us wait a week, which we were familiar with that too, because that was the process for some of these other houses that we put an offer on. So that wasn't like strange to us. So we're like, okay, well, we're going to wait a week, we'll pray about it and, wait a week. Yeah. So during this week is when we were doing, how Brian does those one-off schools. So it was like, I think it was like School of Hearing His Voice or School of His Voice. I can't remember exactly what it was called. And I was home. I think he was working, and I was watching the class on my little iPad while I was in my sewing room sewing. And at the very end, he does those. Sometimes he has dreams and visions or prophetic words for people. So he was doing that. And he said that, he's like, I'm not sure who this is for. Because sometimes he'll like specifically say who it's for, but other times he's like, I don't know who this is for. So if it's for you, go ahead and take it, grab it. So he had mentioned that he saw a wishing well. That, God wants you to throw your wishes in there. Kind of like the same principle almost. Just ask God for whatever you want.
The desires of your heart.
The desires of your heart. So it was kind of that concept, throw your wishes in the wishing well, and it'll happen. And he said he also saw half a peach. So he felt that meant something to do with Georgia. And he felt that it was in the fall. And he's like, I also see the number 8. He's like, 8 means, new beginnings. It also, our school is going to start on 8. And I'm like yelling at my iPad, no, it's for us. The 8th is when we were going to find out if our offer was
Oh my
accepted or not.
God! Look at the Lord.
August 8th was a few days
A
ahead.
few days ahead. So I'm
That's
like,
when we were going to find out if
Yeah.
we got the house or not,
Yep.
Wow.
which I already knew was going
Yeah.
to be.
So I'm like, oh no, the fall, we're going to move in the fall to Georgia we'll know on the 8th. Like, this is mine. And I can't call him because like he's working, but I sent him a text. It's like, you've got to watch it. And so he watches it a little bit later. And then I think we were driving to another event or something, but we were in the car on that. It was a Sunday. I remember us just going over whatever that bridge is into Philadelphia and getting the phone call. And she's like, they accepted your offer on August 8th. So 8/8,
Oh my God.
they accepted our offer. And I'm like, oh, I knew it. And he's just like, yep, I knew it.
Got the faith.
But still amazing what God did through the whole process.
Absolutely,
And
yeah.
it's not over yet.
It's not over.
But-
So accepting our offer was that whole thing with Brian was just a confirmation that
Yeah.
this is where God wanted us to go, the house that God wanted us to have. We still had the hurdle of getting the house since it was so much over our price. So we started the paperwork, and our lender was like, hey, have you ever heard of this program called the Ribbon Program? I'm like, no. She starts to explain it. She's like, you pay 1% of the sales price. And she's like, it was created specifically for people with FHA loans because, a lot of times it'll fall through because of the inspection. So what the Ribbon Program would do is if the whole contract fell through because of the inspection, the Ribbon Program would still buy the house from the seller. So it incentivized the seller to still choose you because they wouldn't have to start the process all over again. So the Ribbon Program would buy the house. The buyer would rent it from the Ribbon Program until those repairs could be done. And then you could buy the house. The other advantage was they would cover the appraisal gap. So at that time, there was a huge appraisal gap on a lot of houses because you were having to bid so much higher.
Yeah.
So if there's an appraisal gap, the Ribbon Program will cover the appraisal gap. So we're like, sure, 1%, 3,000, I think it was like almost $4,000. I was like, sure, let's, what can it hurt? What's a couple more $1,000?
Yeah.
So we included that in the whole process. So we go to get the appraisal done, and the house only appraises for like 22, I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head.
or something.
Yeah. So there was a $22,000 appraisal gap. Well, the Ribbon Program covered it. They put 22 grand toward our mortgage
Wow.
to bring our mortgage down to what it appraised for so that the loan company could then process the loan. So even with the amount of money that we had for our down payment, it still was almost
38 or 40.
30, almost 40 grand over what I was approved for. And this whole process, nobody is saying, hey, this isn't, your numbers don't match up. So because it was during COVID, toward the end of COVID, he couldn't come to closing with me. It could only be me. And the whole time, and this is the first house I've ever bought, so I've never come to the closing table, signed documents or anything like that.
Okay.
I was super excited, but I always heard those stories of people going to the closing table. Before I can give you your keys, you're gonna have to come up with 20 grand. I thought for sure that's what was gonna happen. Nope, we're signing away. You had to sign 1,000 documents, and then they hand me my keys. I'm like, that's it? And they're like, yeah, here you go, congratulations.
Oh my God.
I was just like, I can't believe it. Nobody said anything. I was not approved for this amount.
Yeah, miracle after miracle, because of the bankruptcy in her past, and then I still have this house in New Jersey. It was just impossible that we got this house. It was just awesome to see how God worked. And so we call this, or we consider this, God's house. It's not our house, because we really had zero to do with it.
Yeah.
And so, we couldn't have planned that any more perfectly. God blessed us with this amazing 6-bedroom house nestled in the woods with the long driveway where it's quiet. and everything I asked for.
Yeah.
And we're
His
just
sister's right next door. Church is 2 minutes away. Like,
So wild.
so we decided to use this house for His glory as much as we could, and so we do let people stay here, for periods of time that they need, and we host large events. Sometimes we do like some Rosh Hashanah and Feast of Tabernacles events sometimes, and since we've been here, every Thanksgiving we just open up to people in the church, so 40 to 50 people every Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So that's always fun.
it's my favorite.
So we still have this house in New Jersey. Like I said, we held on to it. I felt like we weren't supposed to sell it right away for whatever reason. So it was around, March, I guess, of 22 that we decided to put on the market. And if you remember, the things that I asked for was that it would just be like easy, it would be outstanding, like it was gonna be extraordinary, and we would get way more than we asked for, and it would be notable to the realtor, and she would say specifically she'd never seen anything like this. Well, all those things happened, including that quote from the realtor. We had the first day it was on the market, we had over 130 requests for showing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And I think I remember saying something along the lines of, the first person to come along will be the one who buys it. But I didn't really care, to be honest, if it was number 1 or number 2 or 10 or it didn't. It wasn't a thing. It was just a thought that went through my mind. But ultimately, it was the first person who came and saw the house who ended up buying it. There was a little bit of a bidding war, and we ended up getting 40 grand over our asking price, which was a great blessing. And so even that, waiting to sell that house, being patient, being obedient, and honestly, I mean, this kind of stuff doesn't normally happen to us.
No.
I don't know why, we just,
We're boring
this happens
people.
to you all the time.
Yeah.
But
This isn't normal for this isn't an everyday. Yeah.
Oh, it's the love of the Father.
But
for you
literally,
guys.
this is why we like telling the story, because for us it's unusual.
Yeah.
And it was just so amazing to see, what faith can do and see God work through it. And there was one part that I left out. There's one thing that I asked for when I was back in New Jersey every night praying and asking for something, for specific things for the house. There's one thing that didn't happen. At the end of that sentence, of all those things that I asked for, and I said, and I want it to be paid off in 5 years. And so we have a little over 2 years to go. Less than 2? I guess it's less than 2 years
Year and a half.
to go.
Okay.
But why should I doubt that that won't happen?
But God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
He's taken you this far.
I'm excited to see what happens next.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so awesome. No, that totally has blessed me.
You have any questions?
I have all kind of questions. I'm like sitting here trying to be quiet the whole time. I'm like, oh my God, because I don't want to stop you,
You
but
could have interjected with a question.
no, I just,
And we still can.
I think when you're going through this process, like for anybody that would hear this testimony, right? Like how did you go through anything like during you guys' time of prayer where like you knew you wanted to ask God for a house, but how specific to be to not lock God in and like limit God, but yet at the same time, like what if somebody is listening to your testimony and they're like, well, I want a house, but I don't know what my house to look like. I don't know what I want. I don't know what I need. How do I pray for that? Do you have anything like that? He's like,
I mean, I guess I would say then don't be surprised at what you get, because it could be anything. If you don't ask, you won't get that thing.
yeah.
So I think you should be specific.
So ask specifically is a big key.
Yeah.
I'm reminded of the scripture where it talks about you have not because you ask not, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and let me ask you this, because it's almost like your faith was so strong in that season for whatever reason, right? Like you had like this supernatural faith, right? But what about people that may be going through that they may have fear And they may fear to ask the Father because they don't know how to ask, or they don't know what that looks like. Or like in your situation, I think that was amazing. Like even what you shared, right? Like, well, let me apply. That's a faith step,
Yeah.
right? And faith requires steps and action and work, right?
Well, it's childlike faith.
Yeah.
And you have to put yourself into the position of a child going to your father. Like the example I gave. A child does not wonder if their parents can put food on the table or buy them that toy that they want. They just say, hey mommy, hey dad, can I have that? Or give me something to eat. Like they don't worry about that. They don't worry about the details. They know that mom and dad are there to provide
Yeah.
for whatever they need. And that's how I approached it, and that's how I understood it in my mind. I am the child of God. He is the king of the world. That's how it works. And he's okay with that.
Yeah.
And so we ask what we need first, but you can be specific on some wants too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's so good.
And I think it helped me, like, during this whole process. Like, I'm such a planner. Like, we need to do this so we can do this. And then we can do that. Like, like all your ducks need to be in a row before you do anything. And he's, especially through this process, he's like, oh, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
But he had such faith and such peace about it that it kind of just really spilled over to me. So he'd be like, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I won't.
But there's something to be said about that, because not every wife is just gonna, let her husband do these crazy things. And so like, she was wonderful through the whole process by letting me lead, and it just worked out amazingly. Thanks be to God.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that whole husband-wife dynamic, a lot of times people fight that, but like this is the perfect situation of a wife submitting to the husband and it just finding peace in that.
That's the proper alignment, and that worked the way it's supposed to work.
Absolutely.
As we wrap this up, for those who are watching, I would like to just pray for you and with you to help build faith, so that perhaps you are believing it for something or have a great need in your life. And maybe this has helped you. I hope it has. Maybe it's blessed you. And so I'll just pray for you real quick. So let's pray. Lord God, I just thank you for every person listening and every ear who has heard the word of the Lord. I pray that you would just shower them with faith. I pray that you would bless their heart. As your word says in Mark 11, that with the faith of God, we can ask what we desire. And if we believe in our heart that we receive them, you will give it to us. I thank you, Lord, that you as the King gives good gifts to your children. And I just pray that you would strengthen and bless every person who has heard this today. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. You're praying, and you're talking about that you're, but he's the King. He gives good gifts, right? One of the scriptures he's been having me stand on for years is, if you ask your father, if you ask him for a piece of bread, would he give you a stone? If you ask him for a fish, would he give you a scorpion? If you, being evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more would your Father in heaven give unto you? And so, like, just hearing you guys' testimony and stuff, I'm just like, the timing of everything and just the way. And I'm also even reminded of, like, that vision he took me into with you guys, with the eagle.
Right.
Remember that? I
So-
shared that with you guys?
Yeah, a little bit. And I know that you didn't know any of that backstory.
I had no idea.
And so that's one of the reasons I wanted to tell it to you, because, I don't know, maybe there's more now. Maybe more pieces fit in. Like, I don't know, maybe.
I think more of the piece for me, like as I'm sitting here hearing it, it actually hit me when I was driving here today. When I was over here last Sunday, what were we doing? We were walking the land. That's what happened in that vision, and I was walking with you two in the vision, and I remember asking. I was like, I was asking you guys, where's Denisha? And y'all were like, oh, she's inside. And last Sunday, she was inside. You know what I'm saying? So it was just, there's just little pieces that it was just reminding me of that, right? I find it so interesting that you found this property or first saw this property from an aerial view. I'm like, how does the eagle see?
Like an eagle.
From an aerial view,
Yeah.
right? So that part I didn't know at all. Like I wasn't aware of that. I wasn't aware like that's how you guys saw it. So just listening to the whole thing, I'm just like, oh my God, Lord, you're so good. I love it. I love it. I love it. But yeah, I was even thinking about, it's just interesting because I was even thinking about, the seeds at the end of that vision. So in the vision, at the end of it, when the eagle was finally able to take off, it powered up a second time. It like kind of stooped down low. And then when it powered up, it took off with great power. And that's when that kettle, did I share that vision with you? Okay. That's when that kettle went to go hit what looked like the front corner of the church. It looked like that front right corner of our church building. And to me, it made no sense in this vision because I'm like, the church ain't nowhere near their house. And I'm like, why does this look like the church? And that kettle, that big old sugar kettle where they boil sugar cane is like hitting the side of the church, you know? But then when the eagle was gone, like this pack of like, it was like thousands of these red seeds. And somebody said, oh, those are palmetto seeds. And then the person over here is like, no, they're not. Those are magnolia seeds, like from off of a magnolia pine cone. They were all vacuum sealed. They took the bag, they opened them up, and they dropped them in water. And then it became like communion. What happened was the water had turned red like communion. And then I think it was like right after that is when I came out of the vision. I'm like, that makes no sense. Like, what does all this mean? You know? So just when I had gone to Hawaii in December, I had told him, I don't know if I told you, but when I had gone to Hawaii in December, me and my oldest son was going upriver. We literally hiked a river about close to 2 miles. It was a little bit over 1.5 miles. And on the way back, those same red seeds that I saw in that vision, for some reason, they appeared in that river like clear through the water. And I picked up and there was 22 seeds. There was $22,000 with you. Right? The 22,000 difference. There's something with the 22 and the unlocking and the faith story that you shared. That's kind of like how the key of David operates. You see it, you go into the future, you grab a hold of it, and you bring it into your now. That's how the key of David works, which is Isaiah 22:22. It's also in Revelation 3:7, right? And the address of the church is what?
3777.
3? And then 77737s, right?
Yeah.
So it's just like all these little markers like that he's highlighting. I'm like, Lord. So yeah, it's interesting. But I share all that to say this. Could it be that even, and this is what I've been feeling like since last Sunday when I came here, but that vision he took me in on 10/22, could it be that that's now? That's what's happening now.
Yeah.
And I believe a part of it has to do with the prophetic. The eagle taken off. The eagle no longer being bound, and the eagle powering up. And I believe we are, like I shared in one of the videos, we're in that window. Like right now, I'm not saying God's not going to use the apostles and the teachers and the pastors and the evangelists. He's using everybody. But I'm telling you, I know in my knower, like right now we're in this window of time that he is shining upon his prophets that have been in hiding, and those who are to be prophetic voices. And whether you guys realize it or not, you definitely have a prophetic unction. There's definitely a prophetic unction with you. And I think what I see is that you're just moving and doing things. You're thinking it's a thought, but it's not just a thought. I really believe it's the way God is communicating with you. And I thought it was beautiful even how you guys like exemplified the whole thing of like what a marriage looks like, right? The husband leads. It's not that you don't have a voice.
Right.
It's not that you don't have a call. It's not that you can't do things.
Right, because this sounds stupid, but if it wasn't for me, like being on the mortgage,
Yeah.
so I had to be a part of it, but it was still led by him.
Absolutely. So it was like the Lord leading you, and follow him and submit to him as he's being led by the Lord and undergird him.
Yeah.
And I think that's what honestly, I mean, I think that's what a true wife does. You know, I think we have many depictions of what a wife looks like, right? Women are strong, but she undergirds her husband, right? And there's power in that. And I think when we do things God's way and through God's design, like just because then that's even a level of submission for him, right?
Right.
And it's even him stepping out in that bold faith. I just think it's beautiful. I love it. I love it. I'm excited to see what he's going to do with you guys.